One Cup car, the S1 Cup car, and it's a spec series. And these are cars that, of course, are going to be able to be purchased by anybody. But Steve Saleen and his group, Cal, have put together this Saleen Cup. It's early stages here. This is the first time that they brought out, I think, 4 or 5 cars. They've got a pretty august group of drivers that are going to be wheeling it this weekend. This is a practice and qualifying session. Tomorrow will be the first race. And as you take a look at these cars, when you first see them, you look at them and you go, wow, these are really sharp looking. Then the next question is, yeah, but are they quick?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Listen to them.
They get going.
2.2-liter turbo engine. Essentially built in-house. It's a Ford derivative engine, but they're built in-house. About 450 horsepower, 4-cylinder turbo, 6-speed sequential box, full racing and suspension, fully adjustable. It's a neat little car. And talking to Eric Kern, who's been doing the testing and development of this car, he said it is really quick. And certainly been putting in some very impressive lap times here this weekend. Still got to get the regulations sorted out, but right now it's about a second to a second and a half quicker than the fastest GT4 times we've seen here this weekend. So certainly very impressive. I like the concept. Essentially 4 race weekends, including this one. Then we'll go to the Glen Road American, finish off at the finale in Las Vegas. Doubleheader weekends. And if you were to win either one of the 2 divisions, either the young drivers or the Pro-Am driver division, that will give you a paid seat in Saleen's GT4 entry for the entire 20 seasons. So that's a nice little carrot at the end of the deal for the season.
Boy, isn't it? Nice indeed. And these cars, I mean, they're running quick enough times. They've been right in that GT4 range or quicker. And obviously, you get into the racing series as the BOP. But these cars certainly have shown the pace. And as we said, this is early days for this program. And they're still very much in the middle of the testing, research and development part of it. But got a guy like Eric Kern that's out there doing the laps. He's been around, he knows these things, and if he says the potential's there, believe him.
Yeah, he has a lot of experience, certainly in recent years as a prototype champion, just last year, in fact. But a lot of GT experience, so he's the ideal candidate to put the car through its paces, give the feedback to the engineers. And Steve Saleen has a rich racing history, been involved for several decades now, was a good racer himself. I actually raced for Steve Saleen actually at this race circuit.
You're on pole, you think? Here?
Yeah, as I recall, we were on the race truck pole there back in '89 and enjoyed the racing. He has a lot of passion for motorsports.
Oh, that's for sure. And over the years, I mean, he's built some fire-breathing machines that have run in World Challenge competition. And as you said, you know, including even running race trucks and the like. And
these retro liveries that they're put on the initial cars.
Yeah.
I understand 6 cars have already been shipped to China, and we're anticipating a handful here for tomorrow's race. So this is essentially a practice session, which should then segue into a mini qualifying session here towards the end of the hour.
And in that number 4 car right now, that is a driver named Carter Fartuk. And he's got lots of experience. Hasn't done any pro racing, but a ton of experience running Skip Barber Formula Series. There's a series in southern Florida called FARA that does a lot of GT3 enduro racing, and he's run GT3 Cup machines in that. He's done SCCA, Porsche Club, and GT3 Cup stuff, which is plenty quick. And doing a nice job. And I think he just turned a 122.9. And that's put him up to the fastest in this session. In the other car that's out right now, that is the number 2, is Paul Terry, who, of course, we've seen an awful lot of in World Challenge competition in the touring car division. He's done some Super Trofeo stuff, a little Trans Am 2 as well, and some NASA experience in those cars. So
podium here today.
Yeah, had a great run, absolutely. So he's got a little track knowledge to throw into it, but it's that Martini liveried car right now that as the quickest time. But Terry's got some track knowledge. I'll tell you, every time I see these cars go out, they are striking in their appearance, in their lines.
They just sound quick.
Yeah.
The motor's really delivered really strong horsepower. And looking at some of the engineering and experienced personnel that Steve Saleen has put together to spearhead this program, you would anticipate it being very successful because he's got some really good key people here this weekend. Hospitality area looks beautiful, and everything looks first class. We're just a little bit slow in the delivery of the cars, but We're going to see this build over the course of these 4 race weekends this year, I'm sure.
I think you get a surprise request from China for 6 cars right off the top. That's going to put your North American program, understandably, a little behind. I mean, this is the first year that it's been out there, but it's great. And note to a lot of people that run series that involve turbo cars, they can sound really good. These do. Listen up.
Well, I think that's been one of Steve Saleen's trademarks is in terms of building good-looking cars. A lot of the aftermarket stuff that he's delivered over the years, certainly been some really pretty cars with a lot of success on the racetrack, but I think he really built his brand around the road cars that he's had run through his veins over the years.
There's always been that connection, hasn't it? It's impressive. And these things go. I mean, they're unrestricted. They're saying these things, little 2.2 liter turbo, about 450 horse, right? I mean, that's
these
pretty
two drivers who are just sort of like getting up to speed in this car for the first time are running 122s. I believe Eric Kern ran a 116 this morning, so that's the potential of the car. We may see that car out a little bit later in this session.
Let's see, times now, 122 flat for Fartuk. See if he improves on that this time by. Oh yeah, 120.4, so they're really starting to find some speed. Terry lowering his time down to a 121.1.
This is literally like a little test session for these guys to get used to the machine.
Now the races themselves, right, 50 minutes is what they're slated for. 2 drivers, so there will be a driver change. Mandatory pit window and a 2.5-minute minimum stop time. And that's comfy for sure in terms of space. But again, this is early days, and they want to make sure that nobody gets hung up with a driver change issue.
Yeah, so that pit stop window will happen between the 20 and 30-minute mark of the 50-minute event. Kind of mimics what we have in SRO with the GT4, Pirelli GT4 competition, and GT3 at the halfway point. 5 minutes either side is when that window opens and closes. As you said, plenty of time, 2.5 minutes to traverse down pit lane, get the driver change done. Just early days. This is certainly being the inaugural event. Just kind of want to get the cars out there, get a feel for them, and nice little break in the action. We've got 6 weeks essentially till the next round at Watkins Glen.
Just to give you a point of reference here, these guys haven't had a lot of time in the cars. Terry now squeaks through and takes the fastest lap away at a 120.011. Pole time for the GT4 cars here. Some very experienced and drivers and well-sorted cars, 117. And we've seen, I think we saw Kern dipping into that 17 range
yesterday, and I think he ran a 16, low 16 this morning, and I think the GT4 pole, I think Stavely dipped in the high 16s, didn't he, for race 2 tomorrow. Yes. So pretty equal on times, and we expect this car to eventually become GT4 homologated.
Well, we talked about Eric Kern, who is the official R&D driver for this program, and Ryan Marine has found him down in pit lane.
The perfect guy to get some insight into this brand new car that the guys have been fawning over up in the booth. It looks great, it sounds great, but what everyone wants to know is, what is it like to drive, Eric?
Oh yeah, it's been an absolute blast. I mean, this whole Saleen program, a lot has happened in a short period of time, and it's just exciting to be here at Portland. And you know, it's going to be a lot of fun. This Saleen S1, whole new platform, whole new program. I've been doing all the test and development for the last couple months and working closely with all the guys from Saleen. So, I mean, it's been a lot of work, as you can imagine, trying to build a number of cars and get these things all working and reliable and all of that. So we got a couple cars running on track now. We got a handful of drivers, but overall, the thing's a blast. I mean, it's a lightweight aluminum chassis, carbon fiber body, you know, 4-cylinder, 2.2 liter turbo, you know, mid-engine car, paddle shifted, you know, big 6-piston brakes, and some beefy Continental tires. So it's got the right ingredients to be a really quick race car, and it's been a lot of fun so far. I'm fortunate that I've done most of the laps in this thing so far and got to drive it a bunch yesterday, but it's going to be a great program. Steve Saleen and his whole group of guys have done a great job. Andrew and I are good friends from long ago, back in the touring car days, so Andrew's been doing a lot of engineering. So yeah, it's been a good fit for me. It's fun to be involved in this program from the beginning, and yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see some exciting things here coming up with this whole Saleen program.
Looking at your driving career, you've been fortunate to drive some really amazing race cars, but as you're describing this one, I mean, the smile is genuine. It seems like this excites you as much as the prototypes or the Corvettes or the various things you've been associated with over the years.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's not prototype fast, but it's just a blast to drive. I'm just excited to see these things get fully sorted with 15 or 20 cars on the track. I mean, it's so much fun. Again, really well balanced. It's like really a mid-engine supercar with a pretty hefty 4-cylinder turbo making good power. But again, the mid-engine, big Continental slicks on the car and big brakes. It's just got a great combination. It's going to make for some great racing. So it's going to be exciting to see these things flying around. But I just like great race cars that drive really well, and I've been fortunate to be able to give all my input and really get them fixed up and drive like they should.
To be a development driver, you've done some development, obviously, over the course of your career, but this is from the ground up. I mean, you are right there from the moment the car rolls out on track. To have that responsibility on your shoulders, you enjoy that?
Yeah, I mean, with any new program, when you're starting from scratch, it's a little tricky because not everything works at all. So you just got to be patient. You just got to keep checking the boxes. The guys keep running through the list. And again, like I said, the guys of this R3 program and everybody behind the scenes with Saleen working like crazy. But I mean, we've got a really good package right now. I keep reiterating the same thing, but I went out this morning and it was nice cool temperatures and the track was nice and warm and set some really quick times. So that just gives you an indication of how quick these cars are really going to be. But yeah, again, it's going to be a lot of fun. I just hope that I get to race some of these things as well as just test them. The test driving is great, but it's exciting, and I want to get in there and see a fleet of these guys going door to door.
Well, there's a bunch of drivers who also seem pretty eager. We got a couple over here that are getting their helmets on. So with a couple cars running right now, is the plan just to rotate through the drivers, get as many seat time as possible with an eye on having more cars on track tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit tricky because at this point in time, we expected to have at least half a dozen or more cars out. And we don't have them all here yet, all functioning, but they're also coming in daily. The guys at the shop are just building them one by one. But yeah, I mean, we want to get everybody some time in these cars and at least kind of feel it out. Some of these people haven't even been here to Portland before, so get some seat time, but ultimately just get some time behind the wheel of the Saleen S1 and get a feel for it and make sure it does what they want it to do and they're comfortable in the car. So yeah, I mean, it's going to take some time again, but we're excited to get through this week and excited to get on to Watkins Glen for the next event.
I know you're busy. I know the race drivers, they want to pick your brain a little bit before they head out on track, so we'll let you get back to it. But thanks so much for sharing the insights, and we echo your sentiments. Hopefully we see you racing one of these things.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Thank you very much. Good to be here.
It's Eric Kern, guys.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, what a absolutely great guy, very talented driver, and I think he's really relishing this role he has here. And by the way, Paul Terry, before he pitted the number 2 car, dipped into the 19s, Cal, turned a 1:19.8. And while he was talking, while Eric was talking, we had an onboard lap that he'd put in there. Did you hear the overboost on the downshifts in that thing? That thing is putting out some serious horsepower.
Yeah, it really is. It sounds great, and
does.
it sounds powerful. You
Yep.
just burst down this front straightaway. You can hear it here from our TV booth, and there's a little bit of an issue with one of the cars. It looked like the floor panel on the number 4 machine had come away a little bit. So we'll take a quick look here and see if they can fix it up and get the car out for the qualifying session a little bit later.
So, yep, and there's the checker flag comes out in this practice session. Qualifying, the 15-minute qualifying session that's slated will be coming out. And that will be in about 10 minutes. So don't go anywhere if you want to see more of these absolutely beautiful Saleen S1 Cup cars in action here at Portland International Raceway.
Copy you. No movements.
Welcome back, everybody, and we see a couple of those beautiful Saleen S1s making their way out on track. This is technically being called a qualifying session, but it's an opportunity certainly for some of the additional drivers to get a little bit of time behind the wheel of these cars as they are heading out. Here's the number 4 entry. It's nice, you know, that's one of those things about a turbo car. It's nice and tame as it leaves, and then it gets up into the boost, and it becomes the beast, and off they go for this session.
Certainly the cars have looked very impressive here this weekend at Portland International Raceway. Looks superb, really good looking machine. Anticipate seeing it in GT4 competition next year, as well as the Saleen Cup.
And again, this is very early days. We heard Eric talk about it if you were with us a little bit earlier here. They're still very much in the R&D. But, you know, come Watkins Glen, they expect to have a lot more cars. And, you know, Road America certainly in September. I think the prospect of seeing 10, 12 of these things on the track for a race could be really, really exciting.
Oh, for sure. And
spec close, good drivers.
They got some really good drivers lined up to drive me. Even here this weekend, you got guys like Brandon Davis, Bryce Miller, Cameron Lawrence, really good GT drivers. So they're licking their chops to get their opportunity to sample this machine for the very first time.
And as we watch this beautiful S1 Cup machine working its way through the Shelton chicane here a little bit earlier, Ryan Marine caught up with Saleen Racing founder Steve Saleen to talk a little bit more about this beautiful machine.
We're here with legendary racer Steve Saleen, who has driven some amazing cars over the course of his career, lent his name to several more. This piece of kit behind us is no exception, the Saleen S1 Cup car. Steve, no better person to explain this car and what makes it special than you. Let's start, before we go and take a look at the car itself, with the idea behind it. Where did this idea come from to create a Cup car and a Cup series for Arrive and Drive participants?
Well, I think first of all, we build a lot of exotic cars. The Saleen Mustang that a lot of people know, and our supercar, the S7. So about a year ago, we developed a new supercar, the Saleen S1, and we've been in process of developing it. It'll be in full production by the end of this calendar year. But we thought, what would be a better way to introduce the car to the public than to go ahead and actually race a car? And then that led to itself, well, when we did the S7, we gave it to a number of race teams, and they were all very successful with it. This time we thought, why don't we create our own series? And we got together with SRO and talked about having our own Saleen Cup within the SRO group. And that then blossomed into basically what you see here on our debut weekend, where we are putting together 6 cars with 2 drivers each that will compete for the Saleen Cup here.
It's exciting times here in Portland. So, Steve, why don't we have you come on over to the car here? We'll start at the front and maybe describe some of the features of this car. What makes this so special enough to put the name on the car?
Well, first of all, it's a totally new design. It's our own in-house design. It's a ground-up build. It's an aluminum chassis with a full carbon body. It has our own 4-cylinder single turbo engine that puts out roughly 450 horsepower. And that is the street version. So we've adapted that and put it into the race version, which is basically, other than a wing and a bigger front splitter, is pretty much identical to what you would see on the street version of it. We're running enormous brakes, front and rear. The car doesn't weigh much. It's around 2,600 pounds. And the engine putting out 450 horsepower. Its power to weight ratio is in the supercar genre. And we're very pleased with it. We've adapted a lot of aerodynamics. We have been known over the years to improve the aerodynamics on existing platforms, as well as our own when we came out with the S7. The S1 is no exception here. It's the latest in technology as far as the length, the height, the width of the car has all been developed with aerodynamics in mind. A lot of CFD testing now and correlating that to coast down. And what we tried to get, though, was an overall good balance that made it a very high technical car to drive, but one that actually could be easy to drive on that. And then because of that is the Saleen Cup. We're able to bring young drivers and Pro-Am drivers together in a very competitive series, to where I look at it, to where we're kind of playing the give back to the community of racing, a play forward aspect of it, to where we have a lot of unique drivers. We have women team, all women team, but we have some other lady drivers. We have some Pro-Am drivers. We have some very good professional level of drivers. We even have a kid, the first that has autism, is actually one of our drivers for the car. And he just got off the track. He did very well, and everyone is very excited about that. So it's a very unique perspective. And unlike the other, what I'll call the other Skittle series, we concentrate a little bit different. As you can see, the liveries, we have 3 levels of liveries. We have iconic, we have the Saleen liveries, and we have contemporary. And what we saw today was the iconic ones, but tonight and tomorrow you'll see the Saleen liveries, and then at Watkins Glen, when we have the full complement of the cars, then you'll see the contemporary.
Now, I'll tell you what, I mean, it's clearly a well thought out program. Steve's been around a while, certainly, and he was talking about that S7. And I mean, I think back to watching Johnny Mollum and Terry Borchler and those guys wheeling those S7s. They were remarkable bits of racing kit.
Very, very competitive. I think Ollie Gavin started to get his
Yes.
early success then before he moved on to the Corvette racing team.
I think that's got him recognized.
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
exactly. So I think that's where Doug Feehan, where Ollie got Doug Feehan's attention in terms of one of the top seats in all of racing. So I raced for Steve for a season back in the late 80s, and certainly enjoyed driving his Ford Mustangs in the Escort Endurance Championship as well as the SCCA Race Truck Challenge. So some good memories.
Absolutely, and this is the number 6, first time we've seen it out in that, again, another very iconic or evocative livery for sure. And in this car, it's the number 6. Martina Kwan is out behind the wheel of that car. Oh, I think that's just been changed now. That's who we expected in it. It's I think it's possibly Molly Saleen. And, of course, she's the daughter of Steve, but does a lot of super late model, and Legends driving. And she is out getting some laps in this car. And the other car that's out on the track right now is the number 2 entry. And driving that car right now is Zach Lee, who's done some AMA bike racing, but also has done a lot of MX5 Cup competition. So as Steve said, wide range of drivers enjoying some time behind the wheel of these cars. And with a little bit more, let's check in once again with Ryan Marine.
One of those drivers is Martina Kwan, waiting for your chance to sample this fantastic race car. How excited are you about getting out on track?
Extremely excited. Yeah, we had a few laps this morning, and I can't wait to get back in.
What drew you to this car and this project initially?
Well, it's, Saleen has such an incredible history. It has such a huge fan base around the world. And so when I heard about this S1 race car, it's so gorgeous. It's incredible, 450 horsepower turbo. Who could resist?
I noticed on your helmet earlier you have 3 different flags, and as an amateur vexillologist, I really enjoy flags. I was amused to see. So you had the U.S. flag, the German flag, and the Hong Kong flag, I believe. For those at home who might not be familiar with your racing, Ed, could you give us a little bit of your background and how you got here?
Yeah, well, I'm a Eurasian. I'm half Chinese and half German. So one of the flags is a Hong Kong flag, and my father, and then my German flag is my mom, and then I'm a U.S. and British citizen. So I figured I'd have, my Eurasian flags on there, basically.
Well represented for sure. All right, when you get in the race car to go again, what's going to be going through your mind? How excited are you to go put the car through its paces and get a little bit more comfortable with the car in the racetrack?
Well, I think to get comfortable, I've already done, Pro Simulator with a coach of Portland, and it's a beautiful track. So, I'm excited to, see how the handling is of the car, which I already saw is incredible. It's really well handling. It's powerful. It's like a rocket, basically. So yeah, it's going to be really fun to drive.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time, getting to know you a little bit, and best of luck when you get back behind the wheel.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Michelle does a lot of racing in the GT3 Cup class in Porsche Club of America Racing, so she's got some time behind some pretty quick cars, and this will be a good first step for her as we watch Zach Lee continuing to put some times in here.
Some good times, too.
Yeah,
He's got a lap in the mid-18s. Last lap was a 1:19 flat, so he's getting to grips with his car pretty quickly there. A little bit sideways there. Just giving it the full welly.
Yeah, absolutely. You wonder what level of, you would think in this car there's got to be some, if it does have traction control, it's got to be adjustable. And so, somebody that's got a little bit of experience and, traction control can be a bit invasive when you've really got it cranked up. So somebody knows what they're doing, you turn it down a little bit and you can have some fun.
Absolutely. That looked like fun there coming
Yeah,
off that
sure
corner.
did.
So a nice drift, but very controllable. Didn't snap on him.
Let's see what he does on this one. Looks like he could be even a little bit quicker this time. He had an 18.6, you said, Cal? Not quite as quick, I guess. That slide did take some time away. We saw Molly Saleen at a little bit of a moment right here in the Shelton chicane, but she gathered it up and took off again.
One thing's for sure, that body shape really looks good in all of these liveries that we're seeing here so far.
Yeah, it's a good-looking machine.
Love that low shot when the car was in pit lane. They did that low camera angle on the front end, the aerodynamic front splitter, and bodywork design is really pretty.
It's sharp. He's giving it some, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just showing off now.
He is.
Doing the Scandinavian flick into turn 7.
Exactly. Coming up on Molly, who's still recovering from that spin here. As I said, she's done a lot of late model style racing. This is a bit different beast. High performance road car.
These are literally the initial laps that these drivers have seen.
Yes.
Some of them at least. So I know there's a few drivers got their hand in a little bit this morning, but for many of the others, these are their initial laps in this car, and for most of them, their first laps of this circuit as well. You see Lee is on the gas hard. That was a 120 flat with that little traffic. So I think there's potential for Lee here to maybe get down in the low 18s in this run. A couple of minutes left on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And Drake Kemper was out early. He's ducked back into the pits. I think that was the car whoa! Well, there he found the limit now. He runs a really wide line, doesn't he, into turn 4, and eventually he can get you to the point where you run out of little real estate. I was going to mention Drake Kemper in the number 4 entry. We saw that car had a little bit of problem with a part of the under tray. And again, this is basically still doing a lot of testing and development on these cars. But Drake, he's leading in the points in the MX5 Cup this year, which is extremely fierce racing. And you've got to be good. Watch it here. This is the spin here. Yeah, just
wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just got wide in there for turn 4. Never got close to the apex, and you're just out in the grave. There's not the grip out there. You're offline that far, so no harm, no foul. Just a quick loop around. There's plenty of runoff for him through this section of the racetrack.
You can see he knows he's got some racecraft. You can see as that was swinging around, he turned into it right at the end there so he could straighten it out and try and drive off again. I was talking about Drake, 6 years of pro racing, and he competed in the Aussie driver search for a few years as well, so he's got some international experience. Just not able to get out and get much time.
It's the right thing. Just brings in a pit lane, have the mechanics give it a quick check over as the session is about out on time.
So his best time was a 1:18.6. And I think you're right. Had he been able to string that last lap together, you got all the potential in the world to get in the low 18s. But I have a feeling, even though it wasn't a long session for him, there's going to be a big grin inside that helmet.
Just getting back to the format, there's 2 categories essentially. One is for the young drivers up to 28 years old, and then the Pro-Am drivers are 29 and older. And again, at the conclusion of the championship season, the inaugural season that finishes off at the finale for SRO at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway mid-October, they'll secure both the winning drivers a paid seat for a season. So that's a great enticement for drivers to come over here and try their hand in this machine.
It is. I think that's going to be a nice hook to get people in to get a season's ride. And Molly, now after that spin, last lap, she was able to get down into the 130s, so I think she's feeling finally a little bit comfortable. As you said, a lot of these drivers not only haven't had time in this car, but certainly haven't even had time around this track other than a sim. And so the smart thing to do certainly is sneak up on it.
Baby steps.
Yeah, absolutely. And into the pits comes Molly.
Great to see the car out there in anger today. Obviously saw it early in the season at Circuit of the Americas when they had a car on display, but a lot of work to get a car from ground up out on the racetrack, particularly with those early deliveries going over to China.
And in some numbers, yeah, exactly. And you know, the one thing, you look at a car sitting stationary in a display and you go, boy, it's pretty, but. You always add that but. Well, we have now seen fair evidence that when it gets out on the track, it can get up and go, and I think there's a great potential here, and we're looking forward to seeing that unfold. So we anticipate a few more cars arriving overnight, and we will have a race at the end of the day tomorrow. That wraps up our day from Portland International Raceway, folks. Thanks for joining us.